Again, welcome to the South District meeting. This is the second meeting of this group for the South District. We are, again, sort of planning these on a quarterly basis, moving forward forever, I guess I'll say. We'll sort of see how it goes. We'll obviously sort of evaluate how, whether the quarterly is working or we'll go to less frequent or more frequent. But in terms of an agenda for today, just going to very quickly go through. Oh, I think I need to stay in the screen. Okay, stay in the screen, Brian. Stay on point with, what is the purpose of the Olmsted Community Alliance, very briefly. Then we'll move into project updates on things that I introduced last meeting. Then we'll follow up on the concerns and park issues that were brought up at that last meeting, and then open it up again for new issues, new concerns moving forward. Then we'll talk a little bit about next steps. So again, what is the Community Alliance? Its purpose is simply to strengthen the relationship of the Conservancy with our Olmsted communities in partnership with the City of Buffalo Common Council. The objectives are about you representing your community, opening up a dialogue, supporting the implementation of the 5-year plan. If you don't know what the 5-year plan is, I don't go into detail on that today. Went through it a little bit last meeting. And again, I can bring you up to speed if anything's confusing separately, or as you just stay engaged, you'll get immersed in it. But again, continue park user outreach, increase awareness, and then again, enhance opportunity for stewardship and volunteerism. Just in terms of the structure, we're here meeting in South Buffalo. I'm doing these meetings on Wednesdays, so 5 Wednesdays in a row. I'm going to all the different communities that represent Olmsted Parks. The idea is that we're going to talk about project updates, going to talk about maintenance updates, event updates, and then get feedback on, the design process, maintenance issues, and any sort of aspects of stewardship and just your role. We want you to be an ambassador. We want you to recruit more people to participate in this process. And, the goal is that you are all stewards and love these Olmsted parks. And we all want to work together on that effort. So in the room here, you only see a little bit of my face, but this is the main team. Myself, Director of Planning, got Zach Garland and Z in the back. You will also on a regular basis potentially see our executive director here. We've got our director of park administration, Greg Robinson, in the room. Katie Stevenson, our director of development, handles our fundraising. And Bob Stoats in the room as well, our director of operations. For the South District, Jimmy Coyle, our district supervisor of District 2. We've got a four-person Dennis and our South Park curator, Margaret Lapp, who you met last meeting. Might meet and see and hear from as we go through this process. I don't know if this is a good time. Are we looking to hire another foreman for the South District? Oh, we're not. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I meant to clear that up before the meeting. Sorry about that, Bob. But so that's basically it. That's why we're here. We're going to keep sort of working at this. Obviously, not perfect work first, but we're going to continue to improve, continue to get more people in the room, continue to engage on what's happening in the parks. So working through projects for South District, Arboretum restoration. So I had mentioned last meeting that fundraising for, move my heads over to the side, I can see my notes. We've done fundraising for phase 1 of the Arboretum restoration, and that's really focused on maintaining and improving the existing collection. And as a part of that contract, we've got roughly 550 trees being pruned, 175 undesirable or damaged trees being removed to sort of clean up the collection, and 50 additional stumps on top of that being ground out. So a lot of work that you'll see happening in South Park related to the Arboretum. Another exciting thing in promoting the Arboretum, on our website, we've got something called the Tree Venture. It's basically like an Arboretum scavenger hunt. You can, through the website, South Park Trees is the backslash on bfloparks.org. Take that up on your phone, walk through the park, and find the trees, engage, learn more about the Arboretum. So that's an exciting project. Next project I brought up last meeting was the Cazenovia Pathway project. So just as a recap, in 2020, City of Buffalo secured funds to restore pathways on the south side of Cazenovia Creek. This was in line with our 5-year plan. This section of pathway in severe disrepair, broken edges, steep slopes, etc., unsafe and really unmaintainable. So we started off doing some historic analysis of the alignment of paths and sort of the history of the parks, more and more tied to Olmsted. We went through the design development process, internal review, preservation board approval occurring last year for this project to restore the historic path alignments and remove some non-historic infrastructure and sections of path. When the project was presented at our last meeting, there's some community member concerns were reiterated and expressed regarding the section of path to be removed. Recommendation was made to cut the removal of the section in red from the project. Is something that would look more like this. So the yellow path will be retained, and sort of the removal of that piece would be taken out of the project section of path that parallels the historic route to be restored, and the sort of spillway bridge out of the project scope. Those comments were documented and submitted to the city, and I had hoped some resolution on the issue would align with this meeting today. But however, we've not been able to come to a conclusion in how the city wants to proceed. Discussion needs to continue with the city, and I guess, you know, we need to keep you all posted on the progress. Yeah.
Yes. Going back to South Park, I heard you mention that you had 550 trees, approximately 175 to be removed, and 50 stumps. I didn't hear anything about replacement.
Right. So I was supposed to mute myself while you were talking. I guess it wasn't a major issue. So yeah, sorry, I should have paused at that to give you that opportunity. So phase 1 of the Arboretum project is the existing collection. So it's really taking care of and taking the trees that already exist and making them, you know, shine. Phase 2 through 6 of the Arboretum is sequential restoration of the original collection. So once we get through cleaning up and taking care and making the existing trees healthy, we'll be continuing the fundraising into the sort of plant out of the Arboretum, if that makes sense.
Regarding that, if you don't mind, I apologize for not being here
Sure.
last week. How does that interfere, or how does that supplement the golf course? And secondly, how much money has to be raised for phases 2 through 6?
So to work in concert with the existing golf course, no impact on the golf course. The total cost of 1 through 6, I'll look at Greg if he knows.
I don't have it off the top of my head, like several millions of dollars.
And how are we doing so far in our fundraising?
So fundraising today, we've got the basically $380,000 raised to complete that package of work that's happening, and continued fundraising, you know, goals for each year. That's basically Margaret's job, is that continued fundraising effort as well as sort of managing the work. So she is sort of doing all aspects of the project, and this is, you know, again, one project of our master plan, which is many. but one that we're very focused on, and sort of show that in the hiring of Margaret is sort of the first step in making sure we can pull this off.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Looks like I was muted for that whole response.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, one of you guys like wave me down again if I'm okay. All right, so through South Park Arboretum. So again, Kas Paths. So again, I was hoping to have full resolution. The recommendation to sort of leave the unaffected pathway portions has been again sent to the city, and you know it just doesn't align with this meeting to have resolution on that, which is unfortunate. But you know, again, the project is fully funded. The goal is to come to a resolution and be ready for spring or early summer construction, and that's kind of just the status of that project. To sort of clarify again, Orange would be tore up and completely replaced, and some of the shoulders flattened out, some of the steep slopes flattened out as well, and connected to the historic alignment of the path in black. The area in yellow was initially proposed to be removed, and right now the discussion with the city is whether to basically cut any impact on that path out of the project, or keep it as was originally proposed and recommended back in 2020. Yes.
Do I need the microphone or?
Yep. And I'm going to.
Hi, I was just curious as to why the concrete steps were there. And if they've been there that long, they look like they've been there probably 50 years. Did they lead to someplace or?
No, it was basically, Chris, you want to weigh in, but basically the design there is there are some steep slopes that come down the spillway, and what I would imagine it was an engineer's idea that you don't want to take that steep slope, we'll give you stairs on either side down to a sidewalk. But that's really all I can imagine. There was no front door to a building, anything like that the steps would lead up to. It was basically just giving people either a steep path to walk on or steps to go up and down. Okay. Yes, Art.
Do I have to push anything? Nope. A couple questions. Where does the slowdown appear to be as far as coming to a resolution? Number one, let me ask you both questions, and then I have a comment. And number two, is there anything that the public can do to assist in coming to a resolution?
Honestly, you know, I mean, it's been a little bit of back and forth with the city, but again, it's not something that we can really control, and you know, we're just sort of working towards a final resolution. I think the fact that spring construction is coming, you know, this will speed up. You know, again, communication can always be better, but I don't know that I can attribute really much of anything specifically to why I don't have, you know, answers for you today.
I'll hand it to you. Thank you. And I just back to the existence of the steps. From what I've been told, well, they were put in when there was a major change in the configuration in the levee was put in to deal with the flooding issues, and so before then I'm assuming that there wasn't that steep hill, and that there was a creation of the berm and the bank and everything had to do with dealing with flooding. Can anyone confirm that? So that there was a reason it was put there because of the major reconfiguration of that part of the park.
Yep, I could just sort of Muted. Holy moly, I'm still not good at this. But yeah, just going back to the historic view. So this again, so this sort of is in concert with the dam. And these were sort of flooded lagoons that were accessible under there was a small bridge that sort of allowed access and sort of it backfilled. In flood management, they basically moved. So this area where the pathway cuts across, that was high ground, fully connected. So there was no way for the creek to flood into that area across that path. That was high ground cutting across. When they put in the levees, they were basically reversed that situation. So now the flood access was upstream and sort of flooded in the other way. So they basically put in that sort of high levee, deep depression, and the two steep paths that come down and the stairs that basically gave people a route if they didn't want to sort of walk slopes up and down. So that's, when that all happened was related to that levee project, like you're saying, a major reconfiguration of the creek. Any other comments or questions? Yes, council member.
Question about where the holdup was. I will reach out to Public Works and have a conversation with the commissioner and the deputy commissioner, and I can send it to you, and that way you can forward it to everyone who signed in tonight.
Great, that'd be great.
All right, any other thoughts? Nope. If I'm getting the Zoom to work, then that means the PowerPoint has to break down. That's the way it goes. Okay. So again, so these are just some visuals of suggested. So here's that steep area that would get graded out a little bit, and then the area headed east. Just so you move another view back the other way, the existing path, and the connection back towards that route. Just some final wrap up in terms of that sort of sloped area. We're going to be working through invasive species clearing along the shoreline as a part of this project, but also in addition to that, we're going to make a volunteer push in CAS to clear some of the invasive growth through this area. All right, moving on. So again, project updates. South Park Lake, we have a $250,000 state grant that is quite old at this point in time that needs to be reconfigured. It is currently focused on a project tied to South Park Lake. Unfortunately, the funding source requires the project to be completed. It was scoped out as a study for the lake. There's no way we're going to complete it for anywhere near that amount of money. It's a multi-million-dollar project, so we need to rescope the project in some fashion. We're contemplating redirecting to the Arboretum, but again, we need to work with the state assemblyman and sort of come up with a good plan and a good new project. But $250,000 dedicated for South Park that we're hoping to get moving in the near future. Another exciting project on the horizon is the South Park Lake Bridge. City of Buffalo has had partial funding, had been moving forward on the design process through this process this past year. They applied for Bridge New York funds of nearly $1 million. They have received that money. So this project is basically fully funded, and they are moving forward on the design process. Those of you familiar with the bridge, severe disrepair, but a very historic bridge, a lot of historic character we're hoping to bring back. And hot off the presses, there is going to be an open house on February 22nd at the Dudley Branch Library, where you'll get to learn more about this project. So encourage anyone who is available on the 22nd to join the city for that meeting. Any questions about that? It's always nice to announce funding coming through.
any kind of estimation when they're gonna start that? And are they gonna open up Ring Road before this year at all?
We'll get to the Ring Road conversation, but the project is currently planned for construction starting 2023. So I think it's probably gonna be 2022 for design, and then really kick off 2023 with the construction project. But funding is in place, which is great news. Another exciting project back in Casanova Park. Our wonderful council member requested funds to rebuild the playground in Kas Park through Erie County, and we received that funding. We're currently going through the agreement details with Erie County, but we're anticipating in the very near future, I'd like to hope our next meeting, we're going to start the community engagement process on what kind of playground we want to replace this with. So as spring kicks in and through summer, I think with the councilman's leadership, we're gonna build a state-of-the-art playground for Kas Park. This is a very well-used playground. We're gonna sort of use the model of what we did a couple years ago in engaging the community in a playground that we built in MLK Park. So again, bringing in new features, new opportunities, and really make it a great playground accessible for all. Any questions or thoughts on that? Yes, Art.
Planned and the elements of it are considered. Will that include dealing with the hard surface path that leads to it that is all too often used by motor vehicles when I'm assuming it shouldn't be? There's a lot of confusion about that. And so I'm wondering if part of the plan will be to implement a new approach to letting people know whether or not they should be driving and parking along that playground area and using that for motor vehicles.
Yeah, I think traffic. I think the traffic management, we can sort of build into the design process how much money goes to the pathway. I think we're going to start with making sure the playground is the playground everyone wants. If there is extra money, I think there's a few other things that we would add to that project. Changes or modifications and improvements to the pathway might just need to be something we fund additionally. But I think thinking about the playground as a safe space and keeping vehicles out of that area, should be something we think about while we're designing the playground. So that's a great point, and I think we'll make sure that's a part of the conversation when we talk about the playground. It's a good point. Yes, up front, Jay.
Okay, when you're looking at the playground, the safety aspect of the traffic, across the street is a parking lot, and there's a pathway from like Potter's Road, and people have to cross there to get to the playground, and there's no crosswalks. And it seems like a simple thing that's necessary, because I don't think that's where people speed up after they go over the humps. And it looks very dangerous to me, because sometimes cars are going about 40 miles an hour there, and people leave from the parking lot and go to the playground, or they walk from Potter's and then they cross the street there, and there's nothing there.
Yep.
So if you could look at that.
Yeah, so you brought this up.
Yeah.
You brought this up at the last meeting.
Yeah, there were a couple speed limit signs that were put up, but there was never a crosswalk or anything.
Yeah, so I don't want to jump ahead, but I don't. The process is in place. That concern has been noted and again brought to the city, and I think we're sort of figuring out what the next steps are going to be. Okay. But again, trying to show that we're hearing everybody, and the process might be slow, but that is on the docket already. Yes, council member.
In response to the crosswalk there, yeah, it's another conversation we have with Public Works. See if we can fund something like the flashing pedestrian signal that's on Potters at Woodside there and do something like that.
Good. Any other final thoughts on the playground? Again, this was kind of like the agreement's in place. We're doing the paperwork, and I think the future meetings we're going to be able to have some more exciting conversations about it. Yeah, Simon.
I'm sorry.
I get my steps.
I know, she like it steps in. I just wanted the scope of the playground because I know we're seeing more and more playgrounds that are more also age, wider age spectrum, like adult playgrounds, that kind of stuff. We in South Buffalo don't really even have anything like that. Like I've seen some stuff on like the east side and stuff like that, but is the scope going to just kind of, you kind of use Parade Park as an example. So I just want to be clear about that. Like it's going to be the same kind of scale or same kind of audience directed. It's for, a children park, not, I do hope we can get like an adult park or an adult workout park or something like that we've seen in other parts of the city. But I'm not going to make a big thing about it today, but if it was something that could be included in the scope or if it's just another battle.
Yeah, so that's we haven't gotten into like trying to sort of broaden out again the age group served at the playground. When we talked about this previously, and this might be another opportunity to sort of revet that concept. People who are bringing their kids to a playground didn't necessarily want the adult workout set up right there. It's sort of something we addressed in Delaware Park when we were thinking about the Parkside playground. The thought was maybe move it closer and sort of have that, and that actually got sort of a negative response from some of the parents. So again, I think it's, through this design opportunity, we're going to be able to reconsider what our best practices for these things, and we'll see how the resources play out. All right. I didn't need to do that. Okay. Another great contribution by our council member. Resources have been secured through HUD to do a facility condition assessment and use plan for the Casanova Casino building. Again, a great feature right in the middle of Kas Park. So basically this will give us an opportunity to assess the overall condition of the building and also consider all the options for long-term use. The goal is to have the bid to get the people to help us do that work out later this winter or early spring, get those consultants engaged. And then again, we'll sort of, be able to share a lot of good information back with this group as that project moves along. Any questions or thoughts on this building? Again, I think this building's been an opportunity in waiting for a long time. We're seeing renovations of casinos and other parks, and I think we're really looking forward to bringing those opportunities back to down to Kas. Oh.
Brian, will this group have a chance to weigh in on the future use considerations in that assessment?
Yeah, so as we sort of lay out that timeline for that project, we'll sort of work in the quarterly conversations, at a meaningful point in the process, or if need be, schedule a special meeting, to sort of make that work, because we'll be managing that process.
It's gonna be a special meeting.
Yeah, right. So how deep could we go in each of these conversations? Yes, sir.
On this building, and they had a committee on this building when Brian Higgins was around as a councilman. Are you aware of that? That should still be on the record. There's meeting after meeting. I was on that committee 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
no, I don't.
Yeah. Take a look at City Hall records. All sorts of recommendations were given. It's not the recommendations, it was the implementation of the recommendations that fell flat.
Yeah, well, all right. Well, that's great news that we're not starting from scratch then. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think, typically how we find these things, plans can get out of date and then you've got to refresh them one way or another. Can't necessarily just dust off the ideas of 20 years ago, but it's great information to build on, for this project. So that's great. And, if we can't track this down, circle back with you and try and, or maybe, I guess Congressman Higgins might be a good starting point. All right, exciting stuff. Any other comments or thoughts on this one? We got a lot of projects in this district, which is great news. Next, South District project is the South Park Clubhouse, and what we're hoping is soon to be Clubhouse and Arboretum Visitor Center. Funding, we put in a funding request through the Erie County Standing Committee of the Greenway Fund to do the design work for the full reconstruction and restoration of this building, which would include a sort of reprogramming of the main hall to be that sort of starting point for your tour of the South Park Arboretum as we continue to build that out. But also on top of that, we received $200,000 through Erie County to rehab the bathrooms. So if everything goes well, we'll have a full design and we'll have a partial rehabilitation of the restroom facilities, with COVID on our minds, access, clean, hygienic restroom facilities that are open and accessible are top priority for a lot of people. So we're excited to sort of move that process along, and we're hoping all the chips fall into place. Any thoughts or comments on this project as it develops? Okay. And then a minor thing, but this spring, we're going to complete the replanting of both the circles. This past year, we removed a lot of sort of overgrown view shed inhibiting plant material from the centers of each of the beds. Some of that was just overgrown. Some of that had recently been hit by a vehicle, which sort of started the process of the editing of the vegetation. So we're going to come back with some appropriately scaled plant material. Stephanie's given me strict instructions that, nothing above the waist, so that you can see the traffic coming around. Safer conditions for both pedestrians and vehicles as they go around these circles, and hopefully, enhancing the beauty as well. Yes, sir.
We recommend you talk to Marge Ryan.
Oh.
It's put in as admirable. So
Yep.
I would advise you to call Marge Ryan first.
Yep, Marge is got me on speed dial. Some of her ideas, we're working with her on that. Okay. All right. So couple more things to get through for our district. It's like if I stop moving. All right. So final thing. So I think I'd mentioned at the last meeting that we brought in the National Golf Foundation to do a study of all of our golf courses and make some recommendations for improvements, edits, etc., to sort of make them work better, make them better in a variety of ways. We are awaiting that report. Could be tomorrow, next week. Then there'll be some internal review with the city, and then by the next meeting we'll be able to bring some of those recommendations back to this group. But we're excited. That was an internal effort to just sort of bring in the experts on how to run golf courses. When the Olmsted Park Conservancy took over, running golf courses wasn't our dream, but it's been a great and loved part of these park systems and for the park system, South Park, Kas Park, and Delaware, and found we're really good at it. So we're basically continuing to engage experts in how we think about their management. So again, more to discuss there. Question.
So a question from Julia Kress. I've been concerned about the lack of tree planting in Casanova Park and the golf course. We have lost dozens of trees in the last 10 years with no new plantings.
I will agree that tree planting in all of our parks has slowed down. We did a significant amount of planting post-October storm, which is actually quite a long time ago. Yeah, we have been dealing with, trees, tree care, and have kind of left our tree planting program, mainly to our commemorative planting program, where you can purchase a tree to be planted. Major reforestation efforts, have been few and far between, and I think it's due to the funding sources available. But it continues to be a part of our mindset, a part of a specific committee of the Conservancy. Olmsted naturally has been looking at reforestation in a variety of different ways, from planting, whether we go out and plant a lot of big mature trees, or whether we just do more planting on more of the woodland regeneration scale, planting smaller plant material and sort of letting them grow up that way. So it's on our mind, couple landscape architects on the staff that, we get into this because we love planting trees. And I think it's always one of our goals, but we're finding that there's a lot of maintenance associated with adding new vegetation to get 3 years of maintenance to ensure that they grow onto a healthy life. So we just don't go into it, willy-nilly. And, we're hoping the resources line up for a project like that. All righty. If any grant opportunities come to anybody specifically for reforestation, please send them our way. We'll get our development team reviewing. So another sort of system-wide project, which again, we're looking to put out an RFP within the month to refurbish all of our existing signage within the Olmsted parks. As you can see, a lot of them are pretty deeply faded. This is in a case from Delaware, but there's examples in every park of heavily faded, over 20-year-old signs that need a refresh. So we've done a little bit of modernization of the style in partnership with the city. And we're going to start by refurbishing all of our existing signs. We've got funding to do that. That is going out the door. We're going to follow that up with a phase 1 of new signage, which will be a combination of additional wayfinding signage that's sort of secondary wayfinding. A lot of the signs that are out in the parks sort of introduce you to the park, invite you in, but then once you're there and you're on a pathway, you're not sure how to get from here to there if you're not familiar with the park. So that layer of signage, we're going to do phase 1, and we're looking to fund the remaining work to sort of complete the master plan in the next, hopefully in the next year or two, to get this project completed. Thoughts on signage? Yes, Simon.
In modernizing the signage, which makes me think, why not go back historically? What were the signs like originally for these parks? And has there ever been an effort to in any way, go back to whatever that appearance was back then? Again, I have no idea what was there, if there even was signage, but I don't think of Olmsted and modernizing in the same breath. So,
Yeah,
so
I was just sort of an update of the an update of the color, but yeah, honestly, before, I think probably I will look into this, but I've never seen a sign prior to these signs that got put in 20 years ago. Not even was there a sign from the 50s. I have literally no signs. So I will dig into that. But kind of the context of this planning process and the work that we did with the city is the city wanted to be sure that we were consistent in keeping this one park system. The Olmsted parks are a very valuable, you know, historically significant subset, but the idea was to keep all the city parks branded in a consistent way, and then call, you know, a special attention so you could differentiate between Olmsted and non-Olmsted. We also had a significant investment in those existing signs, so much cheaper to refurbish and sort of work with modifications than to sort of scrap everything and start fresh. So that was sort of the groundwork of how this process got started. I think knowing that answer is of interest to me now, so I'll see if I can find something. I've literally never seen even an old postcard, an old photograph that shows a sign of any style. Interesting. Great question. Okay, not muted. Advancing slides.
Oh.
We got one.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's fine. You know, all I really wanted to, I mean, I would be in favor if all the Olmsted parks had an established year, just like Delaware Park. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not sure, and you said it's refurbished, so I'm not even sure if that's even the capacity of this project of like actually adding an established year for like South Park and Cat, because I honestly think it's interesting to understand like there are different years on some of them parks. Anyway, that's it.
that is a great comment, and that, so we're writing the new manual, and on signs of a certain size where there's room to add all this information, the establishment year will be on those signs. So every park will have at least one sign, maybe a couple, that have that establishment year on them. So your wish is granted right here today. Any other signage questions? We are getting close to the end here, so. But all very exciting stuff. The last sort of system-wide thing, we through the DEC got a grant. You know, well, you know, we want to focus on tree planting. We do need to again manage our existing tree collection, and sadly, there are situations like the emerald ash borer, where a certain species of tree is getting decimated at a rate and an aggressiveness that is catastrophic nationwide, and is unfortunately affecting our Olmsted parks, like many of our spaces. So dealing with, again, standing dead trees, in this case, a handful of ash, becomes a very important priority because they become a hazard to health if not dealt with. So we're able to, again, prioritize through DEC, getting a small grant to address ash removals, which are all complete, with the exception of some turf repair in the spring, where they've gone in and ground out stumps, and we need to be getting grass growing throughout the park. So that's, again, an unfortunate situation, but important things that we need to deal with in our urban parks. Yes.
I know we were investing in some inoculation measures. Have those been successful? And how many trees were saved?
Yeah, I'll turn to Greg for specific numbers if you got it.
Sure, yeah, so
When we started that program, when emerald ash borer was first found in South Park, we immediately were inoculating around 250 trees. This last go around, we're still right around the 200 level of trees that survived, and they're on a 3-year cycle. We go through every 3 years. So last year we had just trees, so they'll be good for another 3 years. But it is a huge investment financially and time-wise. Luckily we have a certified arborist on staff that can do those inoculations, and it's not going to go away, I guess, anytime soon. Just to, I guess, hot off the press as well, regarding trees, as I wanted to, we are just made the decision, or are just moving forward. Each Arbor Day, the local tree care companies donate a day of service. They provide hundreds of thousands of dollars of free tree care to the Conservancy on Arbor Day. And this upcoming year, it's April 30th, I believe. Anyways, they're going to be doing their work in Cazenovia Park. So it's huge. They bounce around the system. Last year they were up in Rumsey Woods, but this year they're going to be in Cazenovia. So that's it's really neat. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we're encouraging people to come out and, get in the way of all the tree care workers doing a lot of the dangerous removals, like I said, but seeing this mobilization of all this equipment and all of these resources all in one day, I've gone there to see it, and it's pretty impressive. You just stumbled on this and didn't know what you were visiting. I mean, it is a very impressive operation, and they get a ton done, which is a lot of value added. So we really love that partnership. So area south of the bridge, and traffic calming on the curve coming up was brought up at the last meeting. I think the speed humps have been pretty successful in keeping people driving the appropriate speed. You really pay the price if you don't, which is great. And whether flashing beacons, more signage, or physical impediments, again, we sort of again leave it to the city to sort of lead us through those processes. But comment and concern documented, and I think process moving along. Yes, council member.
Public Works about installing additional speed humps throughout there. So that's already in the works.
As someone who walks the park every day, it seems to me that people are slowing down less and less for those humps. And maybe it's my imagination. It almost seems like there is at least some population that likes the thrill of not slowing down for those humps. But initially, it was noticeable. People were slowing down for the humps. I see less of that now. And again, maybe I somehow am misreading it, but it's troubling to me because I've noticed a difference. And that section right there is very dangerous. So any effort to improve is really appreciated.
We'll bring that comment to the table. I mean, I'll say that I'm going to go with, I was focused on looking at the park, and I kind of forgot a speed hump was coming up and might have been going 20 miles an hour. And you don't want to hit those things at 20 miles an hour. Certainly not in my vehicle. So I mean, I think they're effective, but if there's an issue and we need to maybe make them a little more aggressive, I guess that's something we can bring to the table.
And I want to preface this with, believe me, I see how hard the workers work, but there are times when I believe that the workers in their little vehicles are exceeding the 50-mile-per-hour speed limit on the paths, like past the playground and things. And it's troubling. And so all of a sudden they'll be coming around a curve and going fast. And so I really appreciate the work that they do in the park, but I see a lot of fast moving park vehicles.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So other thing that sort of came up and is sort of on the very near horizon that we want to sort of give an opportunity to discuss and get some input on, if I can get this to advance. So Conservancy and City are sort of in final development of it's going to be a citywide survey with regard to the ring roads. This is going to be a survey for South Park, as well as a survey for Delaware Park. And it'll be up for quite a bit of time, but we're really seeing these as sort of regional assets. I really want to have a citywide conversation about that. And I think the goal is to sort of have this open through the spring and into the beginning of summer, be coming to some resolution. Certainly, the closure of the ring roads during the height of COVID was really focused on, social distancing and providing space for people to walk. You add vehicles and parked cars onto roads, you really start to narrow when there aren't alternative routes, places for people to walk safely. I mean, these are big places, but these were basically seen as really important respite areas. So we supported that decision that the city made. And now we want to have a broader conversation about what we do long-term. So that's going to be through a survey, but we see this as a great venue to start that conversation. Again, it won't necessarily be a popularity contest, but we want all the input and all the sort of sides brought up and elevated so that we can, help the city make the decision that is best for the park. So again, that's a process, again, moving forward. The survey will be worked through. I'm gonna open this conversation up at our Delaware District meeting in a couple weeks, if you're interested, and use the Delaware Park Ring Road. But really sort of wanted to, I guess, give people a moment to get their thoughts on the table with regard to South Park specifically. Just to sort of refresh people's minds, the ring road was closed off at all the entrances. Now there is currently access, through this front entrance along South Park, in and out. But really the back end of the loop is closed off. So there is go back to how it was. There's leave it the way it is. There's also an opportunity to sort of think about the cut through traffic issue that Hopkins represented, and was, pre-COVID, a big discussion item of trying to cut off and reduce that cut through traffic that, again, is not there to enjoy the park, typically not driving at a park appropriate speed, and is sometimes tractor trailer trucks. So I think there's a variety of things in play, but again, it's really about process and getting people engaged. So, thinking about those scenarios, go back to how it was, leave it how it is, think about a creative alternative somewhere in between. I guess just sort of, we got a little bit of time on the agenda to sort of open that dialogue up here tonight. So if anybody has any thoughts, again, keeping the record back.
Is there any opportunity to eliminate the connection of Hopkins to the ring road?
That is definitely an opportunity.
Okay.
Are you managing me too? Or I feel like, okay, all right. Yes, really anything, within reason, is, I think, whether it's in the survey or whether it's additional comments, or, new ideas, I think we're really looking for those creative thoughts.
There's in the Delaware Park District. And it's amazing what's gone up there. The White Tower Pavilion, the lake there, the S curves, all the planting of the trees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now I live in South Buffalo by design, and I've seen a huge improvement in the park because of Chris Scanlon. I'll give Chris the kudos on that. But I think we play second cousins to Delaware Park terribly. Do we get any idea what money goes into South Buffalo versus Delaware Park in terms of plantings and upkeep? We have more acreage, if I understand correctly, in South Buffalo than they do in the north side, but it seems like we're shortchanged. I see it specifically in cleanup. 2, the cleanup around this building is terrible. And when I go by here, I walk by here almost every day. 3, the lack of trees that I see here all the time. 4 is the trimming of the trees. And 5, the cleanup in the fall of the year. Now, I'm not trying to be paranoid on this, but it just seems to me, after living in Delaware Park for years, and now here in the Casanova section, which I prefer, that we're shortchanged. Any truth to that?
No, I would say,
Take a look what's been done
I can,
so
I can,
far.
I can get the figures together. It'll take a little bit of doing. But in terms of certainly, I mean, this within the 5-year plan that we just created, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but this district is exceedingly higher in terms of our suggested investment for the next
Well-
5 years.
Well, I would appreciate.
I
it
can
if it's
also-
5 years' time, but that will give credence to what I said then.
Well-
We've been shortchanged the last quite a few years. You take a look at Delaware Park, the lodge, the white facility overlooking the lake,
Mhm.
and the S curves, and the beautiful rose gardens, and everything else that they have there, the pergolas that they have there. Where is this stuff in Casanova Park? Where is this stuff in Salt Park Lake? I've been in 25 years, they've been cleaning up Salt Park Lake.
They cleaned up the lake right by Buffalo State, didn't they? Right by Hoyt Park. They cleaned all that up here. What about South Park Lake? That's at least 25 years on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, and I was a part of those conversations a decade ago that got that seed money for that study. We haven't been able to get that project over the board. I mean, I think there's a lot to what you said, and I think there's a lot of facts and figures that we have that I think, you know, we can pull together and sort of make the case that is, you know, in our minds, certainly in all of our minds, you know, we do not play favorites throughout the system, and I think we can probably provide the documentation to support that. So
your first couple of statements did validate my statement that more money is going to Delaware Park than Casanova Park.
I didn't say that, but I mean, I can again go back and get you that information.
And take a look at Potter Road. That's part of the extension of the Olmsted plan. You go through the park and you have the Olmsted lighting there, or New York Central Luminaires there. Why isn't that down Potter Road as opposed to the big Cobra lights? Why do we have that? Why do we have that? There should be nice lights that they have on Lincoln Parkway. Why do we have that on Potter Road? Where's the circle that used to be in front of Mercy Hospital, the Mercy Academy at one time? I would say 5, 6, 7 lights. Where's the circle that we had there at one time?
Mhm.
Why not?
Yeah, again, you know, got the master plan. We're working at it. No, I appreciate that, and I think we can certainly give you more information that might ease your mind, hopefully.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Carrie Sabrin. I am the owner of K2R Events. I run a craft show called Craft in the Gardens, and also another one in September called Cruise in the Gardens. And these two events take place outside of the Botanical Gardens. And for the last couple of years, since the Ring Road has closed, we've been trying to contact somebody at Olmsted Park, Botanical Gardens, and also my business, trying to see if we can use a portion of the road to extend our car show. I'm not sure if anybody here knows of our events that we run. Both events are raising money for the Botanical Gardens. And between the Botanical Gardens event coordination there and my business, we've been reaching out, trying to contact somebody, and we keep getting emails, and we send emails out and they get bounced back to us. We've contacted the special events department several times and have left messages there with no response back. We're just trying to find out who we can speak with to open up this event to make it larger. And possibly use part of the road, and possibly during these two events that we have, one July 16th, the other September 17th, to open up the road, because it's very congested now, considering that we're using the forefront lawns of the gardens. We need extra room. It's getting very congested and with traffic flow. So we are here tonight to see if somebody can help us or lead us to somebody that can help us, because we've been trying to do this for the last 2 years and have no luck. So
Yeah, I'm Or am I, okay, I'm unmuted. I apologize for that experience. And we do have someone on staff who is the Olmsted representative to the Special Events Committee, which is run by the City of Buffalo. So we are not the sole decision-making authority, but if you're trying to reach out and not getting feedback, if you have information, I can pass that along. Be Patty Wolfson. Yep.
She's sent us over to couple different emails. This was last year. We got bounced back emails. She's gave us some new names this year. Seems like some different people on board. We've left a couple messages and we're not getting any return phone calls. So I'm just not sure what is going on. I know one girl calls back, said we have to fill out an event application, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to hold an event. We already have an event going on at the Botanical Gardens. And we don't want to overstep onto other property without speaking with somebody. So that's all we're trying to do. But I keep getting bounced around.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just because it's, I don't want to problem solve here, but if you give me your information, I can get that to Patty. Okay, but I can get the information back, circle around. We'll get the council member involved, get this sorted out, but maybe it's because it's not a full application. It's somehow getting lost in the cracks, but we'll get this resolved. If you give me contact information, we'll work with the council member. We'll figure out where Patty sent you and we'll resolve that. So by, you said July, it's your first one?
16th and 17th.
Okay, yeah, I think we can get you squared away for then.
I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. To Mr. Williams' point, having grown up in South Buffalo and everything, I always felt that way as well. That this park was kind of looked at as played second fiddle to Delaware. But I will tell you, since taking office, working with people like Brian, Greg, and especially since Stephanie took over since her predecessor. I would say there's definitely been a shift in philosophy there. I think, unfortunately, and maybe point would be argued, but I think that was taking place. So we've been playing catch up. But I think that, to Brian's point, of over the next 5 years, there is a serious investment taking place on Olmsted's part on the parks here in South Buffalo. The one project Brian referenced as far as the assessment of the Karate Casino, and you referenced the Marcy Casino. After this assessment, we're not looking to just touch it up, anything like that. This is not going to be a half-hearted project. This is going to be a full rehabilitation of that building and make it an asset that we are absolutely proud of. Nothing about it's going to be half-hearted. In addition to that, you referenced the circle entering the park. We just completed phase 1 of Abbott Road. The additional phases, that is actually part of the discussion. So look for that when we go back to the public about Abbott Road. That will be part of the discussion. So look to come out to those meetings. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, do you have an aerial of all of CAS? To just further that point, there has been significant, obviously, we've noted the need to do better, but there has been significant investment in Cazenovia Park. In the last 5 years, we completely rehabilitated the shelter building adjacent to the casino. That was, if folks remember that before we touched that project, it's beautiful now. That was a $500,000 project, right? The shoreline along Cass Creek where the ball diamonds, like those diamonds with these winter floods and those ice jams, we were in jeopardy of losing baseball diamonds. And that is fixed. That we hired experts. We stabilized that shoreline. It's not the flashy, it's not trees and the flashiest project, but that is $750,000 project. The pathway along the top of the baseball diamonds, that's completely redone with new benches along that to overlook. So there, certainly the point is well taken, and like Delaware is a bit, and the grass is always greener on the other, but I want to make sure folks leave here understanding that we've done great things in Cazenovia Park, and I personally feel very proud of what we have done. And you have all of your children and which one you love the most, but I don't want to make it sound like Cazenovia is not something that we've
clearly stated. Since Chris has been in office, I've seen a huge improvement since Chris has been in office. And I compliment him and his crew and working with the Olmsted and Stephanie, I know Stephanie, and working with them, but I still feel we are second cousins to Delaware Park terribly.
I understand.
Okay, since I have this in my hand, I'm going to make my comment. I don't want to discount from the perception that South Park and Kas Park have been underfunded, but it is true that these were designed by Olmsted. They were designed to be more natural and not have the full infrastructure that the Rose Garden and et cetera. So that might be part of the lack of that
In
kind
terms
of,
of beauty, that's what I really basically,
Yeah.
in looking at it, in terms of beauty and money that's gone into the park, not necessarily a rose garden.
I
beauty of-
understand, yeah, and I think we have been underfunded historically in terms of upkeep. But there was a specific decision made by Olmsted to keep this very natural. So there is a lack of things to kind of maintain. We did lose a lot of our circles though.
And I like to follow up on that. I used to live on Parkside for 10 or 15 years. And to me, the last thing I want to see now that I live 4 blocks away from Casanova is to spend money and create structures there. Then it's the naturalness of that park. To me, it's just a fantastic place. And so I don't want to see money spent just to spend money there. I want to see the natural parts of the park, amplified.
Right.
And I also, as far as, you mentioned ring roads, obviously because of the shape of Casanova Park, it is not a ring, but neither is it primarily a park road. It is a pass-through road. And I don't know how we deal with that to remind people and to somehow protect the nature of the park. Because, it's commuters driving through that park that raise the traffic and do the most dangerous kind of driving. And so we don't have the luxury of even thinking, gee, it's only Hopkins that's coming in with pass-through. Lawrence Way is used as a pass-through. And it was really noticeable when the bridge was out, this long suffering time period. And so, and again, I don't know what can be done about that because I don't know what other alternatives there are because you need bridges to get over the creek and et cetera. But it's the real palpable difference. The fact that our beautiful natural park is a pass-through for many, many people.
Yeah, that is a fair point. I know there have been discussions in the past that I can bring back around for us. I know we're sort of focused on the ring roads in terms of we've got to make a long-term decision. We didn't make any modifications to CAS, so that's not a part of the survey, but I know there have been thoughts of making that one way in one direction, but then the ambulance routes and the fire routes came into play. So we'll have to pull up a lot of that information and sort of go back into the archives to find out where the thinking landed with that. But yeah, I mean, I think once we get through decisions with the ring road, we can, start to talk about other parks and, pass through issues certainly. And Riverside Park's got a road that is basically a pass through. Kas Park has a road that's basically a pass through. And MLK's got Fillmore cutting the park in half, where traffic calming's obviously a goal. So I think, yeah, that's a great sort of phase in our work as a coalition. I think could be continuing to sort of come up with good decisions there or good solutions.
Brian, I for the ring road before I have to leave, I think honestly, why don't we just put speed humps? I mean, it really has worked so well on Warren Spawn, so much so that I bike all the time, obviously. I'm wearing a helmet right now. And, I used to get really scared biking through Warren Spawn before the speed humps because cars would always incline to kind of like push me forward beyond like a braking point. They would like, get out of my way, get out of my way. And usually you'd have cars parked on both sides. So there's no room. I mean, there really isn't. You got to give me 3 feet. It's Warren Spawn, for God's sakes. But anyway, I think truly, if we put some speed humps, maybe it wouldn't be so bad to reopen at least the portion on the South Park all the way to Hopkins. we also have to look at what, there's like some money that's gonna be invested on Hopkins as well to kind of help traffic calm and turn it into more of like a parkway between, all the way to Tiff Street. I've been reading a lot through the infrastructure money and stuff like that. It's very exciting stuff. But anyway, I just wonder like, what would stop us from doing more speed humps on the ring road? Because I think, that could help a lot. And then if we had to go one way or the other, I would probably go on the closing side because quite frankly, I see a lot of times, it just happened 2 years ago in the ring road of Delaware Avenue, where there's a lot of cars that are parked in the side of view. And one of my friends, he collided on his bike with a pedestrian because the pedestrian was kind of like coming through, two parked cars, lack of visibility, and actually the ambulance had to come. She didn't suffer serious damage because we were on a bike. But, it's those kind of moments you just hate to see. So, I mean, I'd be more on the close side, but more importantly, I wonder if there's a happy middle point of saying speed humps. All right, and I'm done.
That's a good point. That's valuable info. In the back corner.
And we enjoy the view of the park and enjoy activities in the park as much as possible. And unfortunately, last month in January, I had 2 seniors slip on the pathway. And I just wanted to know who was responsible for clearing the pathways when it snows. Is that a city thing or is that the Olmsted thing? Like literally the pathway. Okay. Because they came in, they were able to get themselves in here and they had told me they fell. And I'm like, frankly, I just don't know who is responsible for it. Okay. And my second question is, last year I was interested in getting some new signage for out front of this building, like an electronic billboard. And I called Andy Rabb and says, hey, Andy, who do I have to talk to get the sign? Is this a city thing or is this an Olmsted thing? And he said it's an Olmsted thing to get that approved. Is that true?
Yeah. In terms of the signage master plan in terms of the signage master plan that's getting developed for both the city and the Conservancy, basically there's standardized signage set, and we want to sort of keep the clutter out of multiple types of signs, different styles of signs. So I think the process for those sorts of things would be to come through the design review committee. We would pull that manual out and we would sort of provide a recommendation to the city. But yeah, when you're within the Olmsted parks, because they're listed on the National Register of Historic Places, there's a little more robust review on that process.
So I should start with Olmsted first.
That'd be
My quest to have electronic signage.
Yeah, and electronic signage, again, within the park setting, I think has some problematic aspects to it. But again, basically it's part of make a proposal and we sort of work together from there. Appreciate it. Okay.
Do I just talk into this?
Just we'll move up here, Brandon.
Hi, yeah, I just have a question. I maybe could have brought this up when you had the playground picture, but I have young kids and the splash pad that's there, it's very slippery, in need of, painting. And I was just wondering if this is where I would even request like a gripper paint. I paint, so I mean, I would even be willing to purchase and paint it myself, just that square for them. It was chipping and really slippery for little kids and kind of dangerous. So it's like a patio paint, with sand in it, so that they don't fall.
Yeah, so great point. And we're getting all the minutes this meeting. That the management of all water-based facilities is done by the city of Buffalo. So they manage those things. I think one thing to be very valuable, I think, is we'll have a map of basically maintenance boundaries, you know, like around this building, there's a boundary where Jimmy doesn't go and people managing this facility handle. So I think clarifying those and who's responsible, I think would be useful. But again, getting solutions to your issue, I think we're all in this together. So we can sort of bring that concern to the city, and we'll follow up next meeting on what the process might be moving forward.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Julia, you can talk.
Hi, thank you.
1 second. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to comment about the ring road around South Park being open or closed. And since it's been closed, when I walk around it, I often will take a bag to clean up garbage. And there's barely any garbage around the ring road now that no one's driving around it, as well as just the safety factor I wanted to mention. It seems as though people are enjoying that space a lot more since the road is closed. I see a lot more people walking there, riding their bikes, roller skating, etc. So I guess I would just vote to keep it closed for safety as well as cleanliness. So that's all I wanted to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other onlines?
We have a couple of comments.
Okay.
So from Charles Drumster, he said, I like the idea of a park ranger. The inappropriate use of the park causes much damage between kids at the casino, speeding in South Park, and trash being dumped in areas easily accessible near the Kas Golf Course, field house, soccer fields, and other areas. And for the Warren Spanway issue, he suggested to make the road through Kas one way from Seneca to Abbott.
Okay, great comments. Again, I think, these are some things will be, useful information right now, and some things we sort of have on, future projects to delve in deeper and explore here as a group. Okay, so that's good. So now basically sort of a wrap up in the last few minutes. Basically, again, sort of open it up to new issues, sort of get on the record. This has been a great conversation so far, but as we sort of wrap up the conversation, I always want to leave room for anything that hasn't been discussed that should be a priority moving forward. I think we've already come up with a few, just organically. But again, leave it open. Art?
I don't want to leave till after the meeting a discussion of the snow removal on the paths in Kas Park. After we woke up to 14 inches of snow, I can't remember if it was a Sunday or Monday morning a couple of weeks ago. The portion of the path that goes past this facility wasn't cleared, and it made it impossible to do a walk around the park and through the park. And I found myself having to walk the roads now and try to figure out what's the safest way in the most pleasant way to get from Warren Spanway and Abbott back towards Seneca Street. I mean, anyway, it's complicated things because it was impassable, and a lot of the paths where there are some of the snow was worn away, you end up getting the melting and the freezing and the covered with snow, and it made it very dangerous. And I don't find walking on Warren Spanway in the road safe or enjoyable, and I have not been able to do my normal just traversing through the park. And so other winters, I've been surprised. I think this is my 7th winter in Kas Park. Other winters, I've been really pleased with my ability to walk every day, 12 months a year. And this has been the first major interruption of that. So, and I don't know what happened differently. I know from my own little driveway that sudden 14 inches of snow overnight was not an easy thing to deal with. And maybe that's what happened. But once it's there, and if it's not moved and it freezes and everything, it really causes an obstacle.
So it's a few things what happened with the 14 inches of snow. So that Sunday to Monday was Martin Luther King Day. So I can't make people come in and work on holidays. That was the first issue. Second issue is I have 3 pieces of snow equipment. All right. I only had 1 for the last storm because stuff broke down. We're still waiting to get stuff fixed. We can only get stuff fixed. Some of it's Olmsted owned equipment, some of it's city owned equipment. We can't control how fast the city fixes our equipment because parks equipment does not take priority over streets equipment. You know, there's a lot of broken equipment. So that's what the issue is. It's not that no one's doing it. As I had only 1 piece of equipment, I had to prioritize what areas were open. Now there was a full loop open around the casino. I know it's not your normal walking path that you'd like, but there was an area for people to exercise, and that's what we tried to concentrate on. Yes, so I think this, yes, you're right, this path wasn't open, but we're trying to open and we prioritize what paths are open and what we have to do. We have buildings that we have to let people get into and other areas that do take precedence over like these inner paths. We were, you know, using snow blowers and shovels and other equipment to try to open up paths on Abbott Road, McKinley Parkway, you know, whatever. These inner paths were not open. That was based on a lack of equipment and a lack of, you know, a lack of staff on Monday morning, the holiday. You know, I can't control if my guys come in. Now, the other issue we do have too is like, you know, I have had people out with like, you know, COVID and everything going on too. So we did do the best. We were able to get 1 piece of equipment back and we were able to borrow 1 for the tomorrow's snow. So that should,
You know the equipment was broke?
when it broke. It broke while we were using it.
You don't check it out prior?
I mean, we do check it out prior, but stuff does break when you're moving 14 inches of heavy snow. It wasn't that it wasn't in disrepair going into it. I mean, it's old, but stuff does break in the process of using it, just like your snowball or something would break at home.
I really appreciate that explanation, and I assume that there was a good explanation. I assume there was a good explanation because, again, this is the first time in 7 years that I haven't been able to walk through that.
You know, that's the thing. You do
Yeah,
know where I
yeah.
am, so you always come in and ask.
Thank you.
So this is not the first time we've heard about equipment breaking down, right? And I know that the Olmsted Parks Conservancy really struggles with getting equipment fixed through the city. Is there anything citizens can do to encourage the city to focus on some of the parks equipment? I realize it doesn't take precedent over streets, but is there anything we can do to encourage the city to step up their equipment repair for parks?
I think we'll explore that in terms of, you know, what exactly in terms of the maintenance cycle. I think there's a lot of, you know, they're dealing with a lot. Obviously, you know, we do not have a fresh fleet of equipment in the Olmsted parks, non-Olmsted parks on the streets. So, you know, I think everyone is working with what they can. And, you know, I think, you know, we've developed a good relationship with the Broadway Barns, you know, with the city of Buffalo in terms of managing the park. So I think sometimes you really can't anticipate something breaking down and where it's going to leave you. And, you know, I don't think there's anything other than just a long line of things to be done and few people to do them in terms of how we end up where we do in some instances. But, you know, continuing to make donations to the Conservancy to allow us to purchase more equipment and have newer equipment certainly avoids issues of being reliant on old equipment that's 10th in line to get, you know, the overstrapped mechanic down at the Broadway Barns to take a look at it. So always encourage you to make donations to the Conservancy, restricted for equipment purchases, and you know, you'll see benefits for that.
She had read about the park ranger. I think that's a great idea. That was actually the second topic I was going to bring up. I have experienced and witnessed a lot of situations in the park with unsupervised children and teens causing trouble. What kind of priority is that, do you think, to have some sort of security for the parks?
Yeah, so we work with the council member's office on some security as issues come up, specifically around the casino building, putting in, you know, security cameras. We work with, and we're appreciative. I think the CPO for the district had to take off, but continue to coordinate with the district and their response. You know, I think money always helps. I mean, it's certainly more security systems, purchasing those cameras, you know, money solves some problems in terms of surveillance. The park ranger program that has come up throughout the years, you know, in terms of coordinating that with enforcement and where that fits in terms of, you know, more people out doing maintenance or more people out doing surveillance and sort of dealing with those issues. You know, I think that's something we can explore again, but you know, I think building the relationships with the people who are doing and keeping the city safe with the police department's been where we focused, and just building those relationships and you know, activating buildings is the best way to deter, you know, and keeping parks active and full of life is the best way to not have those remote hiding spots where people feel like they can do inappropriate activities. So I think it's a combination of factors, but you know, certainly something we're continuing to work at. But we can again explore that ranger program where we left off with that years ago, and you know, what makes the most sense to achieve the goal of having a safe park that people feel happy and welcome in. I think is a goal.
Probably be more appropriate than cameras for these kids, because I mean, these young teens aren't thinking about the cameras as they're yelling obscenities at park patrons and mothers walking through with their kids, you know. Maybe even just a change of shirts for the park maintenance to make them have more of an authoritative presence, might even just change the atmosphere a little bit, you know.
So
yeah.
Get that, well, I don't know.
Well, then maybe there needs to be real police. I mean, with all the money that is being poured into all the projects, I mean, isn't safety more important than snowbanks? Or, I mean, snowbanks are safety, but you know, I'm talking about flowers, things like that. I mean.
Yep. So that is a great point. And, you know, we have a dual mission of restoring the parks, but also maintaining the parks. You find a lot of funding sources that are, you know, you cannot take this money and invest it in people and hours and workers. There are funding sources specifically for capital investments. So it is a challenge. You know, people have a hard time cutting a ribbon on, you know, hard work, but you know, it is something that we're constantly, our fundraising team is working on, and it's a great point. And I think, you know, again, this whole process, continue to figure out, you know, interesting strategies, I think is how we'll make the best of the situation and continue to improve it. Appreciate that.
Or like the paint is what, the city? So it would be a city thing.
And the police are limited to what they can do because you can't take them back to the station. Take them back to the station or let go. I don't know what the answer is. Usually, when I grew up, if you went home, if the cops took you home,
You're in trouble.
you were in trouble. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and again, I don't want to say it's a community issue or
Yeah.
environmental issue, but the police have their hands tied.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do enforcement. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we hire extra security to be over by the casino and the golf course because we're having a lot of damage, a lot of vandalism.
Mm-hmm.
And they broke the guy's window out of his car. He's a security guard. Do you think that guy's going to want to come back,
Mm-hmm.
confront maybe 20 kids that are
Mm-hmm.
out of control?
Mm-hmm.
The cops don't want to come. The police don't want to come. It's really, I don't know what the answer is. It's like a no-win situation. Park is supposed to be closed at dusk.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, what do you do? I mean, I don't know either, but I mean, if we don't do something, it's gonna be worse.
And that's an initial expense that wasn't involved, that cost.
Mhm.
We're asking them to come in on holiday. Our biggest vandalism days are usually weekends and holidays.
Mhm.
That's usually a premium day for security, so you're paying more.
Yeah.
Something we're gonna need to work at for a
Mhm.
while. We are overdue, over time here, so I do want to wrap up. Good conversation, we'll continue it, and we'll come up with some solutions. Just want to remind people, so we are working on a outreach. We are working on an outreach list and activities. We got a lot of good input last meeting, but we're assembling a group of community newsletters, community groups doing outreach to cultural groups, businesses, etc. But any ideas you have, please email Zach. We're also, again, got some people in the room today, but we always want more people you can outreach to who isn't here. If you don't want to make the contact, tell us, we'll make the contact. Any place to advertise, any additional newsletters. Last time we got the recommendations to put flyers out in the park. We did that for this meeting. We're going to continue to do that. Any place you didn't see a flyer, you think there should be one in the park, let us know. We'll pop one up there. We did not do direct door-to-door, didn't have the wherewithal for this meeting, but inviting volunteers for the next meeting to help us go door-to-door around the park where we want to do that. Again, don't have time to discuss, but please send those ideas to us and we will act on them. But again, we're going to try and keep this Zoom in-person meeting format going. But any thoughts, any issues you've seen with this, any recommendations for improvement? Zach's your man. Zach with an H at bfloparks.org. Please send all those ideas to him. Also encourage you to sign up for our Facebook group. I will circulate this to everybody, but please join that. That's again, online is going to be the best information. And this is an exciting year coming up. Olmsted's 200th birthday in April. Going to be a lot of fun events. You're going to hear more about them. So looking forward to the year and looking forward to this process moving forward. Thank you for taking your time, and we'll see you in 3 months.